the Zoom room over time here. So some of our Zoom rules. All virtual attendees are being muted, except the moderator and the panelists. All live attendees, you cannot be heard. So if you need to speak, you'll need to raise your hand and let us know so you can get a microphone. All virtual attendees are encouraged to utilize the chat feature and participate in the meeting as it happens. We are monitoring the chat, so as you ask questions, we will bring it into the conversation. A Q&A session will be conducted at the end of the event. So if for some reason we skip your conversation in chat, we will come back to it at the end. So I have our panelists to introduce Scott Moore, the CEO and founder of Maple Street Biscuit Company. Now I'm going to get out of the way.
Morning, guys.
Awilda Nevarez, which is the Director of Human Resources at the Omni Amelia Island Plantation. Awilda, thank you. This is your second time doing this panel, so we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jeremy Nichols, Hospitality Recruiter with Gecko Hospitality. Jeremy is out of Tampa, and he is a heavy user of LinkedIn, provides some really great insight posts. And so he and I connected over a year ago. We've been trying to make this happen. So Jeremy, thank you for your participation as well.
Thank you for having me.
And our moderator for today's event is Bill David. He's the Director of Training at Gate Hospitality. I'll turn it over to you, Bill.
Thank you, Scott. Welcome, everybody. As you know, the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association, one of our main goals is to help all of our members and colleagues in the hospitality industry to grow, learn, develop, and to prosper. And it's one of the main benefits of this organization is the connections and the contacts that you can make, the networking. We're utilizing some of that talent that we have right now to help us all learn better how to navigate some of these troubled waters during COVID times. With that, I'll jump right into it. Our program today is about resume and interviewing skills. And we'll ask a series of questions of each one of our panelists. We'll rotate who gets to go first. I would like to start with Scott. Particularly during this COVID time, we all know that the #1 factor of success in this industry is getting the right people. Even though it's tough times and there's a lot of folks on the market, where, Scott, do you recommend, where do you go out to do recruit for your open positions?
For us, it's very much about referrals. And we have several steps in which we look at referrals for people to get on the Maple Street team. With us, I didn't have any restaurant background when we started Maple Street 9 years ago. I actually grew up through human resources in the retail grocery business. And for us, the type of environment that we have at Maple Street is really critical. And having people who get that and want to be a part of it is important. In fact, when we started out the first Maple Street 9 years ago in San Marco, just outside of Jacksonville, Florida, our food purveyor, who was a chef, said, you know, the restaurant industry has a little bit of a grimy underbelly, that people move from one company to another company, And we just said that, I don't know if that's true or not, but we don't want it to be true at Maple Street. And so we make certain commitments to people when they come on the Maple Street team, what it's going to be like. And I can talk later about what that looks like. And then when you get in the team, it's, okay, how do we keep that type of we're in this together atmosphere? So one, when we have open positions, we ask our team members, who do you know that could come and help you do good with your team in your community store at Maple Street? So that's the first set of referrals that we get. The second is with our guests. We're very blessed that we have regular guests who come into our stores. The way our model is set up with community leaders is that they engage each of those guests, and we have this community question where we get to know people more and more. And we ask our guests, that are regular guests, do you know somebody that would be a good fit for Maple Street? And then the third way we get referrals is we have, when you go into a Maple Street, if you want to sign into the Wi-Fi, we collect that email, and that's store specific. So if a store has an open position, we have now over 70,000 emails that we can send out to guests by store. So if it's at San Marco store, we can send out to the thousands of guests who sign into our stores and who know who Maple Street is and what it's like to. And we ask them to refer people and send them in to our community leader to have a discussion and see if they can be part of the team.
Wow, very, very powerful stuff there, Scott. Excellent. How about you, Awilda? Where's your #1 recruiting outlet?
It's partnership with some of my employees, so we do a lot of referrals as well, but we also do advertising on Employee Florida. Facebook groups is a big hit for us, so you do some canvassing and some nice ads, and my associates actually posted on their Facebook. LinkedIn has proven to be a great source as well. Indeed, so those are the aggregators that we utilize to be able to attract associates.
Excellent, utilizing all of the social media. And Jeremy, the professional recruiter.
Yeah. Well, I'm coming at a different angle. So since I am a headhunter, I have to go find the talent. So I'm using every resource. I'm using my referrals as well, working my network, LinkedIn, even social media. I don't really do too many job posts. So it's really important for candidates to understand, to make themselves be known and discoverable, and to use any resource they can to pop out to headhunters like myself, because it's my job to go out and find them.
Excellent. In today's very daunting task. They throw it out into in a web, and they don't know who's looked at it when they've seen it. What do you recommend? What is the most valuable form of submitting? Say, if you're not referring me, but I want to come after your company, what's the best way to contact you in order to find out if there could be a match? And we'll start with Awilda.
Yes, so everything goes through our website, and you would apply for a position there. But what I look for in a resume, regardless of experience, is what you've done and how I can match it to the current position that you're applying for, or if I see something that may match you with a different position. So I play matchmaker here at the property, but it's all about the way you wrote the resume.
Okay, and for you, Jeremy, if I'm a job prospect out there and I want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for me to submit my information to you?
I'm good with, LinkedIn, direct messaging, email is good for me. If I do have a job posting, submit it that way. I'm okay with texts. If you are in my network already and you want to shoot me a text, if you want to call me, pretty much I think that everything is part of the arsenal. And there is no silver bullet when it comes to applying for a position.
As long as I get a hold of Jeremy, you're happy.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Scott? What's the best way to submit a resume to you in your organization?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll share a little secret for those who want to get to it. So when we're posting jobs right now, I'm sure everybody gets this, but when we post a job, we get hundreds and hundreds of resumes submitted. And I initially go through and sort those quickly if I'm doing it with my talent acquisition team, and I put them into 3 groups of yes, maybe, no. Because there's hundreds of people are applying for roles that they are not qualified for. And I would say, don't do it. It's a waste of time. Not going to go do that. But to get to me at this stage of my career, I rarely talk as the initial person, but yesterday I talked to 2 people. And how is it that they got their resumes to me through the system is, again, they got referral. So one of them I talked to was referred by a gentleman who's part of the Jacksonville Chamber, who I knew, and he sent me a text and said, I know this young man for years, and I know Maple Street's mission and their heart. I think he aligns very well, and it'd be worth talking to. So I had a conversation yesterday with him about that. The second was a referral from, actually, my wife shops at this one home decor store all the time, and the lady who owns it, they've gotten to know each other. She referred the gentleman to me, and I, of course, felt obligated at least to close the loop and keep that relationship. And so it's rare at this stage that I do that, but if it is somebody who's connected, and I have a relationship with, I'm probably at least going to start the initial conversation, and I'm going to give that resume over to my talent acquisition team for them to put that into the process.
Excellent. As most of us know, a resume is not really designed to get us a job. A resume is designed to get us in the door, get us in touch with a hiring manager. And it's, you just mentioned when you get hundreds of resumes, many managers just sift through them to eliminate them.
Breaking up.
Oh, we're breaking up. Thank you. What is important to you? How can a job applicant, a job seeker, what can they do to make their resume unique or something that will stand out and grab your attention enough to get that follow-up phone call? Jeremy, we'll go with you for next.
You're mute, Jeremy.
Jeremy, you are
Hey,
mute.
there I am. Okay. I said, for me, I'm going to answer this question probably a little unorthodox because I don't really like resumes to necessarily pop with graphics or, you know, images and pictures. I just want to know if they're a fit for the position that I'm calling about. And there's other ways to get my attention after that. But I read resumes, like you mentioned, we get hundreds of resumes. We're reading them very quick. And for me, it's just simple. I want to read it down vertically, right? I want to read your name, where you're at, the position you had, how long you've been there, what the title was, what company it was, and I'm reading it in like 6 to 10 seconds. So I think it behooves them to make their resumes simple and clean and not try to make them fancy with graphs and metrics and things that make our eyes bounce around. That's me personally. And then after that, if you want to get my attention, I've had candidates, and I also recommend this also, you can create like a Loom intro of yourself or video intro of yourself and hyperlink it and email it to me to do like a nice soft intro to grab my attention. That like little things like that are good ways to grab the attention of the hiring authority.
All right, interesting. Scott, how about yourself? What do we need to do to grab your attention on a resume?
I agree on the layout with Jeremy. Sometimes people send it, they got a column over here and a section in the middle, a column over here. As I said, that initial review, I'm putting them in 3 stacks. Yes, maybe, no. And I'm going through hundreds, so it's a really quick, you know, I got several seconds, I'm making those initial decisions. I would say though, one of the things that in that format is when people point out something unique that they've done in life. I've had people point out that they've climbed a mountain or they've done something significant. So for me, somehow that resonates that this is a whole person and there's more to them just the job. And that has a tendency to catch my attention.
Very good, kind of humanize the experience. Wilda, what's attention grabber for you?
I would echo the 2 gentlemen's consent when it comes to very simple, very black and white. Just lead me through your history, lead me through your story. Something that does grab my attention though is the objective, where you want to be. It's very important for me to notice that you took the time before applying to address the position that you are applying for. It's not just a cut and paste for every job, right? So if it's important to you, it's going to be important for me that you spend time on your objective.
Hey, Scott, may I piggyback off that real quick? Because
Sure.
I thought I forgot something I want to bring up. Everything they said is 100%. And the one thing I like to see is use power words like created, implemented, increased sales by, like tangible things that you as a candidate did, and numbers. We love numbers, so we can refer to it when we talk to you later. So definitely put down accomplishments. I forgot to mention that.
I agree with that 100%. Scott, what do you think of that?
Yeah,
I just wanted to ask Jeremy while we had you on the phone. Last time we did this, and you guys touched on it already, people talked about that as resumes come in bulk, you really only give a resume about 7 seconds. And I heard that kind of echoed. And so I just want to ask, as applicants, how is it that we can make our resume stand out in those first 7 seconds?
It's honestly just being a fit for the position that I'm calling for. So if I have a director of sales position that I'm looking for at a hotel property, I'm going to be looking for the specs that the hiring manager gave me. When a recruiter or a hiring authority tells me, Jeremy, this is what I need, they're going to give me their 10 non-negotiables, and that's what I'm looking at in those 6 seconds. So if you're applying to a DOS role and you're a group sales manager with no director experience, you're going to go in, unfortunately, the no pile. I will reach out to you if I have a position in the future, but when I'm looking for those specific searches, that's what I'm looking at. Did you perform the job duty and the responsibilities that I need for this role?
Yeah.
Excellent. Along with those power words, one thing I usually recommend is your resume should actually mirror the job description. If you apply to 10 different jobs, you should probably have 10 different resumes. You should mirror that as closely as possible, because that's what they're looking for. And be honest and truthful, but make sure it does relate to that.
And also about the looking for the position that I was, you're applying for. Obviously, it really depends on what that hiring manager dictates to me as a recruiter, because I'm coming at it differently, right? So I only have so much room to be flexible. I spent 17 years as a director of recruiting for corporate, so I had a lot more flexibility on what I could look at as a candidate. So like if I could hire a senior sales manager to go into a director of sales position, I knew that because it's my company. So it's my job as a headhunter when I'm looking to understand the specs and how much flexibility that I have when I'm looking at the resume.
All right, very good. Now let's move on. Let's say we have somehow got our resume accepted, got our attention, and now we have the opportunity to actually go and meet with the company, whether that be virtually, whether it be in person. There's a lot of rules to how to prepare for an interview, but I'm going to start with you, Scott. What was your best advice for an applicant? What should they do to prepare for the actual interview?
Well, they should know the company and know its story and done the research. They should have been in one of the locations and gone through the experience before the interview, and that they can talk knowledgeable about it. For me, they should be prepared to tell me about the experience, to tell me what worked well, and also have an eye to see what could we do better. And so I expect before I spend time with them in an interview, they've done their work. If they're going to get that time at the table or on the video with me, I'm expecting that they've done their background work before they get there, and they're prepared to talk about who we are, not just who they are.
Excellent. Awilda?
I also agree with that statement, but what I would like to see is that the candidate comes in knowing the property. Hey, it's an open book study. We put a lot of great effort in describing the position. Speak to your ability, your strengths and weaknesses about the position that you're applying for. Bring in the knowledge so that it can get you to the next step.
Very good. And Jeremy, how should an applicant prepare for an interview?
They covered pretty much the fundamentals. I would say soft skills are huge for me. So you can't train someone to have that enthusiasm, that passion, and that drive, punctuality, things like that. You can't train that. So we as HR professionals and hiring authorities are looking for soft skills. So I'd say being prepared and doing the research on the company is going to give you that confidence when you're there to have the soft skills that we're looking for, which is confidence, passion, enthusiasm.
All good answers. And applicants, keep in mind, more and more today, hiring managers we're hiring for traits, and then we're teaching the skills. Have those traits. But I really like what Scott said. Anybody can jump on Google and go take a look at a company, but actually go visit the operation and be able to have that personal insight is just invaluable. I think that's a great suggestion, Scott. All right, Awilda, what are the most important? We talk about traits. What are the most important traits that you look for in an applicant?
Hospitality, right? That you are a people person. I work for hotels, so I want to make sure that you're going to take care of my internal and external guests appropriately, and with patience and care.
Very good. Jeremy?
I'll echo that. Back to the soft skills, that passion, that drive, punctuality, being organized, professional. Again, I'm in hospitality as well, so definitely being prepared and having that energy that we're looking for is huge.
Okay, Scott, what are the most important traits for your organization?
I think what the other two have said are important. For us, the very first one is a servant's heart. We're looking for, this is a service business. We have a principle called gracious service, and that we want to show grace to our guests and to our team members. And so the first thing we're looking for is, do they have a servant's heart? And then are they going to be servant leaders? And I look for that in the very simplest things. I always ask somebody, do you want a cup of coffee? And get them a cup of coffee or water. When we finish the interview, I watch to see what they're going to do. Do they leave the coffee cup there? Or do they want to give it to me? Do they take it to the sink? I've had somebody take it to the sink and wash it. I want to see who goes through the door first. And just do they naturally have a servant's heart? And the second thing I would add to this that we found is really important is perseverance. This is not an easy business. There are days when everything just falls apart. And you have to know it's just a day. It's not the end of the world. It's just one day, and tomorrow will be a new day. And those folks who don't know the old Rocky quote, and I guess have this built into them, it's not how hard you get hit, but how hard you get hit and keep going, will struggle in this business. And so they have to have perseverance innate into who they are.
All excellent answers, but let me throw one more curveball at you then. In this day and age of interviewing a lot of times virtually, on a Zoom meeting or on a telephone call, how can they portray those traits to you? Or how can you get those traits out of them? Jeremy, we're back to you.
Oh, for a Zoom call? For a video conference call?
Correct, yeah.
I mean,
as an applicant?
Yeah, I couldn't hear you, the last part. Yeah, so I think a lot of the soft skills are going to be able to be showcased in a Zoom call. I'm on a Zoom call, so I'm trying to use my hands, be enthusiastic, making sure you're looking directly into the camera. That's a hard part, is there's so much going on in a video call to really make sure you're focusing dead center or on the camera lens where I'm looking right now, because we have so many distractions. So get rid of any distractions, make sure everything is presentable behind you, that you're prepared, and that you are showcasing that enthusiasm and those soft skills. Oh, and punctuality too. Make sure you troubleshoot before you get on a video call with whatever software it is, because there's so many different options besides Zoom. So make sure you have it downloaded and ready, and go in the waiting room and be in there 10 minutes early, just like you would be in a regular interview. Do not pop in there late. That's like the worst thing. Do not do that.
It's sad to say all those are common sense things, but how many times is that lacking, common sense? Mm-hmm. Scott, how about yourself? Do you do any not in-person interviews? Do you do anything virtually?
Yes, we do. We certainly have over the last several months. So to try to get to some of those qualities, we'll ask behavioral questions. Like, tell me a time when you served someone else. Because if you have a servant's heart, you should have multiple illustrations to that. Tell me when you served someone else. They have a tendency to want to go to a theoretical answer. They'll say, well, this is what I always do if this happens. And I'll take them back to, tell me a specific time when you served someone else. And then another thing is, I talked about perseverance, is how do they react when things go wrong? In today's world, something always seems to go wrong when you get on there, if it's the dog or the cat or the kids. Or I had Blair, who's our new mission manager coach up in the Atlanta area, her interview she was doing in her car, and she had to move her car 3 times. She was sitting in the car and the sun got so bright she couldn't see, and so she had to move her car again. She moved it to another place, and the guy came in and he was blowing the leaves with a blower and she couldn't hear anything, and she had to move it 3 times. What I watched, I didn't care that she had to move it 3 times. What I watched is how she responded to the fact that she had to move it 3 times. And getting to that core perseverance is it the end of the world, or is it just another situation that we deal with and move on with?
I love that behavioral questions. The number one predictor of future behavior is past performance. So to really zone in and find out how they performed in the past is excellent. Awilda, how about yourself? Do you do any virtual interviewing, and what's the techniques for that?
I think they both covered it very well, Jeremy and Scott. I would say is the distractors, making sure that you're there 10 minutes prior to the Zoom, test the equipment, make sure that everything is working appropriately. There's no technical difficulties, test it the day before. If there's any questions, just make sure to contact me so that we can work through it. But, taking care of the distractions and so that we can focus on the questions that I will have. And I do also behavioral questions as well.
So as tough as it is to finally get your foot in the door and get that interview, make sure you're prepared for it, you're tested, you're on time, all excellent answers. Okay, let's shift gears here for a moment and let's talk about an internal applicant. Let's say if we've got someone internally that wants to move up and get a promotion, what do you look for in an internal applicant? And Scott, do you have that happen at your operation?
We do. We actually do a leadership training, 4-day leadership training every month. And that's primarily internal people that we're training to go out and be community leaders or assistant community leaders with us. So part of that is referrals from the existing community leaders, that I have somebody here who understands Maple Street mission, gets our heart. We have them submit that they would like to be a leader with us. We have a list of 31 discovery questions, and they really have nothing to do about the technical parts of the job. It's 31 discovery questions about who they are, the type of character they bring to the table, what they do to serve others. And so they get to tell us their story in that fashion internally. I would say one of the ways that really helps, we just had a young lady, Annika, here she's 18 years old, been working for us for 2 years up in Knoxville. I was in her store 3 weeks ago, and she came up and made a point to talk to me and tell me her story, which is the question I always ask of team members, is tell me your story, because I want to get to know where they're at in life. And so found out that she really has a heart for who we are and what we want to do. And so her mom brought her up here last week, and she spent a day in the office just with our family support team, getting to know who we are. And if she wants to be a leader with us, I think she's got a lot of runway and will get a chance to be a leader.
Excellent. We advise the external candidate to know as much as they can about the company, but the internal candidate already knows that. So Awilda, what else are you looking for when you're dealing with an internal candidate?
So I'm looking for passion, right? For the position, for the next level. So with us here at Omni, you're hired for a specific position. You have 90-day trial to see how you're doing within that position, to see if, what's next for you. And maybe that position is not right for you at that time, but I will put you through a training program, leadership program, so that we can prepare you for that, so that when the opportunity comes up. But it's about passion, it's about skills. It is about, the potential to be able to meet the expectations of the job. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And Jeremy, I know as a professional headhunter recruiter, you help folks find new jobs, but I also know you establish relationships for a lifetime and you help advise others, even if it's internally, for them to move up. What advice do you give them?
Well, I did do, prior to being a headhunter, I spent, 17 years on the corporate side. So I do, and I can actually tell my own story, how I got into management. I think the biggest thing for me personally was decisiveness. So I was with a rapidly growing company before I went into management, and I just wanted to move up. But I remember when I told my manager that, she was like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to go into, front desk, or do you want to go into, management or HR? Well, what do you want to do? And I had to go back and come back to her like a month later with an actual decisive answer on what I wanted to do and why. So for me personally, it was being decisive. And I say, if somebody internal wants to move up, to know why you want to go into that role, not just to move up, but why and what position, especially in hospitality and in hotels and resorts. There's so many different divisions, sales, HR, front desk, engineering. So to have that focus on what you want to do, not just to move up. This is more for before you start going through your trajectory, but I would say decisiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Very key, very key. And now it comes time to close the interview. From an applicant standpoint, what do you recommend an applicant could do at the closing portion of the interview itself? Awilda?
I guess for me, it would be the closing would have your questions. Make sure that you have questions for the interviewer or for the employer about, timelines. When will I hear back from you? How long will before I get to know what next steps are? Benefits, if you have any questions about that, because that's part of the selection process as well. It's your decision as well as ours, right? So understanding the whole benefit package along with understanding the position, and then a timeline, a good timelines of when to expect a call back if there's going to be a call back.
Excellent. Jeremy, what do you recommend to a applicant how to close the interview?
She nailed it. So questions, yeah. I think a lot of times if candidates are worried about how they did in the interview, maybe they just know this gut feeling they didn't do well, this is their opportunity to kind of flip it 180 and maybe address anything that they may think that they messed up in the process, to just address it head on and don't let it stew. So I think questions, and then if the back of their head they're thinking they didn't hit a question right, to bring it back up again and maybe address it.
It's always good to go out on a high note, isn't it? How about you, Scott? What do you want to hear from your applicants at the end of an interview?
First, I think this is really important because sometimes people think the interview's over. It's not over yet. We're still giving you a chance to ask us questions. And I am evaluating that candidate based on these questions. So to me, you should have your questions ahead of time, but the questions need to be geared to not what do I get out of this? Because if you go through 3 questions and it's all about what I'm going to get out of this, I'm thinking you're only going into this for what you can get for you. I want people who are going to go help others. This is a service business and we get to make a difference in people's lives. So those questions to be structured is, what do I get to go do if I get this role? Because again, it's still part of the interview. It's still part of the selection process. We're still making our decision about whether you should be invited to be a part of this team and help us go do good.
Very good. I think at this time we'll open up for questions, and then I've got a couple I'll give to the panelists as well. But if you're on Zoom, you can go ahead and unmute yourself now. If you have any questions you'd like from the panelists, please state your question and which panelist in particular you'd like to hear from. We can also open it up to the folks that are here live. If you have any questions, just hold your hand up and we'll be happy to take any questions.
Here, Ashley, come up that way. You can see it. We have a live question. Here's Ashley.
Hello. All right. Hello, if you can hear me under my cone of silence. When you are looking at new candidates and their resumes from an external standpoint, how long are you looking for them in a certain position? If they've been at the same company and moved positions or at different companies, how long do you see a threshold for a positive change in position or time frame?
Who wants to field that question? Scott, you're on the screen. Do you want to start?
Sure. If you've been in a role more than 9 months, I'm probably going to think you don't have enough experience in it yet. If I'm looking as experience as a qualifier, it's got to be at least 9 months, a year in a role to feel that you've been there. At the same time, we're a pretty fast growing company. And I'm looking for people. So when I interviewed my executive team, none of them had restaurant experience, which is good because I didn't have any either. So the one question I asked them is, do you want to go change the world? And I believe that they had the capability, the experience in their area that they could help us go do this well. So, but it's got to be 9 months to a year for experience, but I'm really looking at what can they go do beyond that.
Terrific. Wilda, do you have anything you want to add?
I do. It all depends on the position that they're applying for. But if it's something more senior, like a sales manager, something in management, I'm going to be looking for at least some tenure, 1 to 2 years in the position. There's, and depending how long you've been in an experienced role. If it's for an entry level position, we know all too well, the high school jobs that we get throughout the summer. So that's more understandable. But again, if it's something more of experience that I'm looking for experience, it's going to be anywhere between 1 and 2 years within that recent job. And then I would think maybe 5, 6 years of experience overall.
Terrific. Bill, did you have something you wanted to add? I think we're good. You want to add?
Okay, panelists, boy, you did a great job today. An awful lot of good information came out. In closing, though, I know there's no one magic bullet or one answer, but if you had to categorize what's the most important step in seeking a position with your company, if you could only name one thing, what's the most important step? And we'll start with you, Scott.
I'll go back to what I'd said before. It's if you can get referred, somebody stands up and says, I know this person, they're worth you taking time to talk to, that is probably a big first step.
And Awilda?
For me, it's a complete applicant. So we go through applicant tracking. And so if you complete the actual application and do the resume completely, that will get you a long way. Yes.
Excellent. Jeremy?
I have to agree with Awilda. It's definitely for me because I have specific searches that I'm looking to fill. They have to meet those qualifications. But I think one thing a candidate should know in this job market and in this climate, it's being relentless, like the perseverance, because it's brutal out there right now. And most of this is going to be mindset, because you might have a tough month, few months, but when it rains, it pours. And I'm hearing a lot of positivity coming into my DM, especially on LinkedIn, a lot of success stories, and that perseverance, that being relentless is definitely something that I think candidates need to have.
Well, that's all great news. It's good to hear that the industry itself, we are plugging along, we're taking the strides it takes to be safe, to be profitable, and to keep things going. I'd like to take a moment and thank Aloft and thank Scott Wellington for doing such a great job of hosting the meeting. We apologize for any of the hiccups, but we're learning as everybody else is. We do want to continue to grow in the Zoom meeting atmosphere if we need to, and we're going to keep doing whatever it takes to keep bringing quality information to our members and our colleagues at the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. Thank you, Nicole, for all the work you did to set this up, and thank you for our live audience. If there are any other questions, now's the time to ask them. Otherwise, Scott, would you like to say a few closing words? Oh, we do have a few slides. We would like to share some FRLA information with you, and I'll turn it over to Nicole now.
So as we know, Election Day is coming up. We will be releasing a guide to the ballots that are on the Florida voting ballot. A guide to the ballot amendments. That's the words I'm looking for. Apologize. So I will be presenting a guide to that, but one that we're following very closely is Amendment 2, which is the increase to minimum wage. FRLA's position on it is it will be detrimental to our industry. It'll take a lot of jobs away. Everybody in this room understands that we're an industry of opportunity. You can start somewhere, bust your butt, work really hard, and work your way up. So I think everybody here has done that, and everybody on the call has done that as well. So just a reminder to do your research on the different ballot amendments that will be on the ballot to make sure you understand them, but we've got a website with some information on that. And then I'll let Scott talk about our upcoming event.
Terrific. Well, if you like today's event, we are going to do a customer service event. This also is a repeat from 2019, but we are going to try and address the unusual customer interactions that have popped up during COVID. So we're going to specifically talk about the different environment, the difficult environment that we're working in today, talk about some different ideas and some best practices from people that attend and participate in the meeting. And that is October 20th. It is this same style event. So if you feel safe here and want to attend live, you can do that. Or we will do the event as this hybrid and through Zoom. That's all you got. Can you post the survey? Okay. We're going to throw up a survey. So before you guys check out of the room, if you could, no, I got it created. Yeah. Okay, we're going to try and launch a survey before you guys disconnect. Does anyone want to see the room too before we leave? Zoom out a little bit here and take you on a little tour. So we've got 3 attendees, and Crystal's hiding back there. No, Rebecca's hiding back there, but we've got 3 more back here. And then Nicole's control station over here taking care of us all. Bill, thank you so much. You did an excellent job as our moderator. Thank you to all of our panelists. Again, this has been a long time coming, and I certainly appreciate you guys putting up with me as we try to get this thing scheduled. So thank you. If you have an opportunity to do the survey, please do. Otherwise, have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.